what is the Seventh-day Adventist Church? So SDA Church is a Protestant Christian denomination that was officially formed in 1863 after the Great Disappointment of the Millerite movement. One of its founders is Ellen G. White, whose writings are carefully taught and practiced among the church. Unique properties of this church include its emphasis on celebrating the Sabbath on Saturday, straying away from eating unclean meats such as pork, and hold political views mainly composed of religious liberty with conservative principles. And so, as I said earlier, Ellen G. White's one of the co-founders, and she is regarded as a prophet among SDAs. She claims to have over 2,000 visions and addresses her philosophies on American politics in her books. So she's a writer, and in these writings, we will dissect the SDA Church's position on political parties and lobbying the government. And so, yeah, SDA politics on voting. So EGW is the writings of Ellen G. White. I'm sure we all know what it is. And so in this writing, she says, if voting, we must be free and independent. So Ms. Wright writes that voting must be done intelligently. We must not vote for political parties because we do not know their interests. So political parties may have like hidden motives that the public may not know. So she's saying that we shouldn't be conformed to or like stick to one political party. You should not vote off the party ticket without analyzing the candidate and his issues. So like, let's say there's a Republican and he always votes for a Republican candidate every time just because of like his party. Ellen G. White is telling us to not do this and instead, analyze the candidate. And so her reasoning is for voting for leaders of our nation is a very serious topic, and Ellen G. White addresses it very specifically. The reason she does not recommend conforming the political parties and voting on their candidate consistently is because not all of their beliefs of a political party align with that of an SDA. Voting based on candidates' actions and proposals is more justified because it can go in line with SDA practices, and Ms. White advises us to remain independent for such reasons. So instead of looking for affiliation with political parties, we should see which candidate has views and policies that they want to enact that are like similar to what people of the SDA Church also believe in. And so, do members of the SDA Church practice her advice? And I researched this through a survey on a website, and it said that 48% of SDAs consider themselves moderate, while 24 were religious conservatives and 25 were liberal. Despite Mrs. White's writing, many SDA members do confine themselves in a political party instead of remaining independent. And I'm gonna say that moderate, I'll consider moderate in this situation as like kind of independent because moderate people will look to research the candidate more instead of the political party. And with examples being the religious conservatives who vote on behalf of the Republican Party and liberals who vote on behalf of the Democratic. And the outcome of the survey has 63% of voters planning to vote for Biden in the 2020 election, showing that most moderates viewed his policies most in line with theirs. And so SDA involvement with politics, according to Ellen G. White, church should not be linked with politics. She believes that worldly parties and the righteousness of God are not something that should be in connection with each other. God employs the strongest figures to show that there is no union between God and the world. Adventists should know that God has no battles to fight in the political world. And we should be focused instead on spreading the word of God and not political affairs. And so church-state relationships, one important thing is that God is always first. We recognize the role of organized government in a society. We're not saying it's a bad thing. And we support the state's rights to legislate on secular matters and support compliance with such laws. But it's when we are faced with situations where the law of the land conflicts with biblical mandates, we conquer with the scriptural injunctions that we ought to obey God rather than man. And regarding lobbies, it is only practiced when legislation conflicts with God. This is not common due to our First Amendment rights, freedom of religion. And a true Adventist will not focus their time and efforts into worldly matters. God is the true priority, and if nothing conflicts with that, no effort needs to be made. And so, yeah, their involvement with government is very interesting. In one hand, we are advised to remain more focused on God, but once political policies hinder our worship, involvement is necessary. Our Christian denomination focuses efforts on the second coming of Jesus and spreading God's message. A true SDA believer will practice White's advice, while some will do otherwise and focus on politics. In the end, our position of government involvement should not overshadow our focus of God. SDA teaching holds true to this, but it is up to the members if they decide to follow through. And yeah, that's my presentation.
All right, thank you so much.
Oh, Mr. Trump, were you able to see it when I sent it?